We're gonna try and stick to an hour today. And again, we just really appreciate you being here. So again, Dr. Glass he'll hopefully be able to join us momentarily and offer you just some different information about what's happening in our state. I do want to show you our agenda real quick. So I've got that pulled up here. You may hear a 5-year-old in the background who is quarantined, by the way. He's currently on Khan Academy, but that is one of our twins, Sean. So just want to go ahead and say that at the beginning here. All right, so today we are going to we're gonna talk about last meeting. We're gonna do a roll call here in just a moment. We're gonna I'm gonna introduce this asynchronous comprehensive school counseling course, or the Kentucky Counselor and College Access Professional Program, name to be determined. We're also going to speak, we've got Dr. Wiz Tucker here. We're really fortunate to have him. He is a deputy commissioner here at KDE, the deputy commissioner here at KDE. He's also our chief equity officer. We've also got Deborah Sauber here. She's going to speak to you about training opportunities related to SEL, trauma-informed care, and youth mental health first aid. We've got announcements, requests for future topics, and then we'll adjourn with an exit slip. All right. Paul, are you able to help out with the waiting room by chance?
I can, yes, sir. Be glad to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm just going to call out names. And if you are here, if you'll just unmute and let us know, that would be helpful. And it's going to seem kind of repetitive, but we also have a sign-in form. If you can just let us know who you are, I'll call your name, but just let us know where you're from, what level you're at. That'd be awesome. All right. So we'll get started here. So Kyle Thomas, are you here?
What was it, Dr. Sweeney?
Oh, Kyle Thomas.
Okay. These Thomases are confusing me.
I hear you. All right, Francine Kemper. All right. Paul's here. Stacy Noah. We've got Dr. Wiz Tucker here. Whitney P.
I'm here, Dr. Sweeney.
All right. Will you tell us a little bit about your background, where you are? I know
Yes.
where you are, but I think other people would like to know.
Yes, so I work at GREC. I'm a mental health professional, and then I also have a school counseling degree, and I work with different districts in our cooperative. I'm on a mental health grant called Project Prevent.
Awesome. Thank you, Whitney. Amy Beal. I know she's.
Hey, yes. Can you hear me?
You're here. Awesome.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi. Campbell County. I'm at Klein Elementary, and I don't remember what else you wanted to know.
Oh, that's good. Just that she's also our school counselor of the year in the state of Kentucky. That's a pretty big deal. All right. Cassandra Newsom. Clay Harned. Dana Goins. Eve Fontanez.
Hey, good excuse me, good afternoon from Berea. I am Eve Fontanez. I'm the counselor at Berea High School.
All right, thank you. All right, Heather Bushelman.
Hi, I'm here. I'm at Long Branch Elementary in Boone County, Kentucky.
All right, awesome.
Northern Kentucky.
If you need somebody to present to your district on social emotional learning, that is your girl. She's an amazing school counselor. So Jack Brunig. Jessica Benson.
Hey, I got Jack Brunig. Yeah. Sorry, I had trouble with the mute.
No problem.
Jack Brunig, Morningside Elementary, Elizabethtown Independent Schools.
All right, welcome, Jack. All right, Jessica Benson.
Hey, I'm Jessica Benson here from DuPont Manual High School within JCPS.
All right, great to see you. Karen Coleman.
It's working on unmuting. Let's see.
I knew you were.
It always happens to me. Olive Hill Elementary and Carter County.
Awesome. Thank you. Karen Sweeney.
Hello, I'm with Bowling Green Independent Schools in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I was a school counselor. Now I'm a special education facilitator at the district office.
Thank you. Welcome. Kayla Jones.
Hello, I'm here. I'm with WKEC, school counselor at LPCC, do PBIS and mental health out west.
All right. The issue that you and I have been speaking about is coming up a lot more, so we need to schedule a meeting soon.
Awesome.
All right. Kim Case. Lacey Gross. Laura Keene. Okay. Megan Majors. Rachel Heimer. Robin Loy.
Oh, hello, Dr. Sweeney.
Hey.
I'm Robin Loy. I'm the college and career counselor at Adair County High School.
Awesome. And you and I need to speak about some of that college and career work. That is one of the priorities that many of our school counselors are saying that they need some support in. All right, Sally Pierce.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Sally Pierce, Southern Elementary, Pulaski County.
All right, welcome. Sheila Burns. Tamala Porter. Dr. Cersei. Heather Wells.
Hi, Heather Wells, Ponderosa Elementary School Counselor in Boyd County.
All right, good to see you, Heather. Melina Gallagher.
Hi, I'm here, and I'm Karen Dodds, Administrative Assistant.
All right, welcome, Melina. Sarah Aiken.
Hi, I'm Sarah Aiken. I'm the school counselor at Indian Hills Elementary School over in Hopkinsville, Christian County area, and I am the president-elect of the Kentucky School Counselor Association.
All right, so Sarah, we are putting out an SEL Day video, highlight video tomorrow on SEL Day, and Indian Hills is highlighted quite a bit, so take a look. We'll be putting that out through KDE's social media. So I'll tweet it and then they'll retweet it. All right, Debbie Sauber.
I am here. I couldn't find my microphone.
All right, welcome. She'll be presenting to us a little bit later. Christina Weeder's here as well, I believe.
Good afternoon, Christina Weeder with the Division of Student Success here at KDE.
Awesome. Sarah McIntosh.
Hi, I'm also with Division of Student Success with KDE.
All right, Missy Ross. Thanks, Sarah.
Hi there, I'm Missy Ross. I'm with Gear Up Kentucky.
Okay. And I don't think Kim was able to make it today, right, Missy?
No, she is out of the office.
All right. Amy is out with the crisis situation. All right. Christina Dalton. I saw her earlier. She's from Davies County. I think she's at a doctor's appointment today. All right. Okay. So great to have you here. Thank you for joining. Did I miss anybody? Saw you, Paul. Go
Tara
ahead.
Steedley, Oldham County High School counselor.
Tara Steedley. Okay, wonderful. I got you on here somewhere. There we go. Okay. All right, wonderful. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All right. Has Dr. Glass had a chance to make it in? Not quite yet. Okay, no problem.
Dr. Sweeney.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure Dr. Glass will be able to join us. If not, I'll be sure to close out and make some comments on his behalf.
All right, sounds
As
perfect.
you all know, he kicked off, 8, 9 fabulous listening tours today. So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end.
Yes. I hope you get a chance to attend one of those because he tells a story at the beginning that that is just, it'll blow your socks off. It's amazing. All right, so folks, like I said, I know it'll feel a little bit duplicative, but please use the link that I just put in the chat box and sign in with the Google form. Next, we've got some summary minutes to approve. I'm going to also put those in the chat box and give you a moment to take a look at that. Here. All right. All right, so please take a look at the minutes from January 28th. All right, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to look at that. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. And we, just so you know, while you're looking at that, we do have a Counselor Advisory Council page. So if you just go into KDU's page and then search for School Counselor Advisory, this will pop up, and that's where we keep our minutes and the recordings of all of our meetings. If you feel confident in the summary minutes, please, we need somebody to unmute, announce your name, and make a motion to accept. And then we also need a second.
This is Sarah Aiken. I make a motion to approve the January 28th summary minutes.
Awesome. Do we have a second?
This is Tammy Deal, and I second.
All right. If you approve, please put that in the chat box. Just put approve in the chat box if you are for that. Okay, awesome. All right, so we are going to jump right in. I'm glad that I've got Miss Ross here. So we have, as I mentioned last time, we have been working on a comprehensive school counseling program. We've been working on these training modules, right? Asynchronous modules. And we don't necessarily have the best name for it yet. We're still looking for names. We've been thinking about KCAP as well, Kentucky Counselor and College Access Professional Program. We're interested to get your feedback on names. What we are doing, though, is we are creating these modules, and I'm going to go through them real quick. I know I sent this beforehand just so we don't take too much time here. But the point is we want to make sure that all of our school counselors in the state feel supported and that they are working towards comprehensive school counseling programs. So the idea here is to create a pilot group. For the first round, we also want to partner with groups like KET potentially, other groups like KVEC, Kentucky Valley Education Cooperative, potentially, who can create a platform for us to house this information. But the idea is very much like Ask a U. The American School Counseling Association has an Ask a U program where you can take these asynchronous courses, you can get micro credentials, and we want to do the same here in Kentucky. So for example, I've been able to get to WKEC, which is one of our co-ops, KVEC, GREC, SESC, KEDC, OVEC. I have not had a chance to really get to NKCES, which is the Northern Kentucky Educational Co-op. And it's because I'm constantly doing presentations, and there's always been a conflict this year. So that means that many of our school counselors are getting quite a bit of information, but they're not all getting the same information around the same time. So a course like this would help with this to make sure that we're all kind of rowing in the same direction and that it's not all dependent on one person's schedule, basically. All right, so module 1 would be Kentucky best practices for school counselors and Ask a National Model. Everything would be aligned to our framework and as you know, our framework is aligned to the national model. So we would start with an introduction of the course and the Kentucky Framework of Best Practices for School Counselors. We would do a day in the life of a Kentucky school counselor or a day in the life of a college advisor or Gear Up professional. We We would also go through several of the ASCA templates in different parts of this course. So the school data summary would be one that we would start with. So helping school counselors understand the importance of being data driven. We would also look at student outcome goals and close the gap plans, so that again they can be very focused on what is the data saying and how can I actually impact that data, not only for my comprehensive school counseling program, but for the entire school community based on the school's needs. We would also do like a weekly annual calendar. We would discuss use of time, and then we would introduce the idea of school counselor advisory councils. Okay. Next, we would work to recognize, we will work with counselors to recognize their identity as school counselors. So, or the other professionals that we have in partnership with this program. So we want people to become proactive, right? School counselors or college advisors or Gear Up professionals. We want to introduce the annual administrative conference. We want to do school counselor performance appraisals, and talk about ethical considerations, right? In module three, we would focus on academic support. So how exactly can school counselors impact students academically? So we would talk about modeling individual counseling, small group counseling, supporting academic needs in tier 1, creating lesson plans, etc. Module 4 would be more of a career focus. This is where many of our Gear Up folks are going to really want more information, and quite honestly, all of our school counselors, many of our school counselors say that they need more support in this area. So in this module, we would work towards supporting students with career counseling, models of individual and small group counseling supporting career needs. We will work on the individual learning plan, lesson plans relating to career needs. We would model how to navigate Kentucky State KY Stats, which is a great database that we have here in our state. And then we would also talk about supporting student transitions. All right, in module 5, we'd focus on the personal and social. So we've already done some really cool programming with KET. So we would do our mental health session. That would be one piece. We would do KET's trauma-informed practices. We would talk about most seen mental health concerns in Kentucky and the U.S. among kids. We would introduce our KET suicide prevention session that we did this year. We would talk quite a bit about solution-focused brief counseling, and our mind counselors about the individual and small group techniques that they can take from that. We would model individual and small group counseling supporting mental health, and then also show lesson plans for that tier 1 whole group as well. And finally, in Module 6, we would introduce diversity, equity, and inclusion. We would talk about the Hayes model, belief statements, and critical consciousness. We would talk about advocating for marginalized students and advocating for all religions and backgrounds of students. We potentially may create a separate course for diversity, equity, and inclusion with its own micro-credential or badge. And if we did that, there are 2 slides on this. We would do this. We would do culturally sustaining school counseling, data-driven school counseling through a multicultural lens, navigating data, belief statements and critical consciousness, advocacy for marginalized students, supporting disabled students as a counselor. We would also talk about ethnicity and race, implicit bias. We would want to listen to diverse student stories and model that and ask the question, what can your school counselor do for you? We would introduce tools like the JCPS Racial Equity Analysis Protocol, or they call it REAP. We would introduce ideas on supporting LGBTQ+ students and other stakeholders, and we would introduce violence prevention. So before we get into our next topic, what are your thoughts? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. What are your thoughts? What feedback might you have about the asynchronous course that we're proposing? Jessica, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think it's 100% necessary. Dr. Sweeney, you know, I also am a counselor educator, and many of the students that I work with come back to me later and let me know that they get their information through classes, but it would be good to get a overall overview refresher so that they felt better prepared for when they actually enter a school. So I think this would allow them to get that information that they so need.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. And honestly, I've spoken to several other counselor educators, and I get the same thing. They want they want the information to be reinforced for our practicing school counselors along with our new counselors. What's some other feedback that you might have? And do you have any? I know that I've got a lot of creative people on the call. What cool name could we call a course like this? We want to partner with Missy's group, Gear Up. They've been unbelievable partners, and specifically, they're doing some amazing stuff with career counseling right now. So that just makes sense. And we also are planning to partner with the Council on Post-Secondary Education. So we want to create a better link between school counselors and college advisors. We know that link can just help so many. It can help one another understand our roles, but it can also help each other understand gaps that might be happening at each level. So what are the gaps in elementary, middle, and high school in terms of college and career counseling? And then what are the gaps that our college advisors might need to know that could help them with their roles?
Damien, Jessica has her hand raised. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
I didn't. Go ahead, Jessica. That might be from earlier.
Possibly.
Yeah, I
Just
think,
noticed it.
I think I lowered that. Okay. All right, any other feedback? Okay. Missy, would you like to say anything about the course and your role as a partner?
Of course, I'm wanting to talk about the name and stuff like that, but I'm just going to throw what I had thrown out there. So then maybe that might inspire people to get kind of brave and talk about what they thought of things. So I had thought KCAP, and help me remember exactly. There's like 2 Ks and 2 Ps and but it's Kentucky College what is it?
I've got it. One second. I'm also trying to multitask with talking to my son. All right.
Kentucky College Access and Something Professional Program. And the thought being KCAP, and you could do a logo with like a graduation cap. But that's a lot of letters and a lot of words. I didn't know if anybody else had anything that they thought would work well.
All right. Well, throw your ideas in the chat box if you have them. I'm looking at you, Karen, Heather, Sarah Aiken, Heather Wells. Everybody on the call, we need your help because we want to make sure that it's something that is going to feel approachable and feel exciting, to our folks. All right. Next, we have Dr. Woods Tucker. He is going to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I am pulling up your slides, sir.
Okay. While Dr. Sweeney is pulling up my slides, I certainly want to say thank you for this opportunity to engage in conversation with you about some of the equity, diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts that we are taking on here at KDE, obviously with your support. I have a few slides here. I'm not going to hit you with a ton of slides, but you all know that when someone says they're not going to give you a ton of slides, they probably are. But really, I promise you, I'm not going to have a ton of slides here. I really want this to be a quick conversation. Next slide, Dr. Sweeney. So the big question is why? Why are we looking at all these data points? And when we look at the recent trends in Kentucky, and we can simply say various areas of Kentucky and across this country, when we're looking at the black, white, or brown, white achievement gaps, coupled with the size of those gaps, it certainly points to some type of concern, continued concern of how we're going to provide, especially here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky an equitable education for each of our 650,000 students. I have no doubt that we will do that because I know that your commissioner, Commissioner Glass, the entire Kentucky Department of Education, the Kentucky Board of Education, as well as you, our counselors, and our district level staff are committed to closing these opportunity gaps. We're going to look at some NAEP scores here. As you all know, I know our counselors know this, the NAEP scores or the NAEP assessment is referred to as the nation's report card. Every 2 years, a sample of 4th, 8th, and 12th graders from around the country are tested in math and reading as part of their national assessment program. And it gives us a snapshot of how America's kids are doing compared to kids in other countries. And this assessment has been around since 1969. A quick rule of thumb that's often used in NAEP analysis is that 1 year of school is equivalent to 12 points on the NAEP scale, or put another way, each point on the NAEP scale is equivalent to 1 month of school. So let's look at the data from 2007 to 2017. When you look at the Black-White achievement gap in mathematics, 25 points. That's right at 25 points. And remember, when we use 12 points for each year, that's 2 years of schooling. So our Black students, our African-American students, are behind 2 years by the time they get into 4th grade in mathematics. Next slide, please. Now let's look at the second figure, which is the Black-White achievement gap in reading in 4th grade. Again, when we look at the 2017 scores, 23 points, almost 2 years. And I really believe that's one of the biggest reasons we have politicians across this country who have been really talking about and using as their platform literacy. Because we all know when we look at these early grades, literacy skills, reading skills are the foundation of the future success for many of our students. And so you've had lawmakers pass what I call draconian laws, and in Florida, not to pick on those states, and my adopted home state of Ohio, that says that if students don't meet the benchmark or the score, a certain score in reading in 4th grade, those students are held back, they're flunked. In other words, thank God that we're not doing that here in Kentucky. I personally believe that we're doing more damage when we fail these kids here, we flunk these kids. What we should do, we should be investing on the front end, extending early literacy opportunities for our students, be it Head Start or some early academic program like Head Start for these early learners. So again, almost a 2-year gap between the Black-White achievement gap in 4th grade reading. Let's move on to the next slide here. So now let's look at the Black-White achievement gap in mathematics, which is huge for 8th grade. You see a scale score of 282 for our white kids and 252 for our African-American kids. Therefore, when you look at it, by the time our Black students reach high school, they are approximately 2.5 years behind their white peers. This would explain why many students of color, particularly African-American students and our Latinx students, don't advance to the upper level math courses such as Calc 1 or pre-calculus because they're starting off behind. So we really need to take action very early on to start to close this opportunity gap in math. Okay, let's move on to the next NAEP slide here. Let's look at the Black-White achievement gap in reading for grade 8. I also have a note here in terms of where Kentucky stands with this gap, and I'll come back to that. So what we have here, the smallest of these gaps here, is we have a 22-point gap, so about 1.75 years difference in terms of the achievement of white students versus Black students in 8th grade reading. There was some good news in some of the earlier years. If you take a look at the slide, you would see that for a couple years, the gap closed. And so that is proof that we can close these gaps. We simply need to find out what was happening in those classrooms, what were some of the things our leaders, our building principals, and other building leaders were engaging in that closed that gap. So again, still more work to do, but there is some proof that we can close those gaps. Now, let's look at some data closer to home. Yesterday, I had the privilege of talking with our colleagues in Northern Kentucky, I think 8 or 9 counties in Northern Kentucky, and we disaggregated some data for Northern Kentucky. And what you see here on this slide here, this is special education students by demographics. Students whom are American Indian are identified for special education at a higher rate than students whom are white. All other minority groups are identified at about the same rate. And we use what's called a risk ratio calculation. Now, this is going to really, I may sound really smart about this. I didn't create this, and I just know just a little bit about it to be dangerous. What I do know, it's very robust. And in this ratio probability, in this risk ratio calculation, the ratio of probability of an event occurring in one group is compared to the probability of the event occurring in a comparison group. So you look at your white students as the comparison group and the other groups, and you look at the probability of this event occurring between those two groups. And the risk ratio for comparison group will always be 1. So when we look at our white students there, that group is always going to be 1. And I want to note that whenever there's a difference of a plus or minus 0.25, that means that we need to take some action in planning. So moving on to the next slide. So let's look at our gifted students and how students are identified in gifted and looking at their ethnic background. Students of all minorities except for students whom are Asian are considerably less likely to be identified as gifted. Students whom are Asian are more likely to be identified than white students in the gifted program as well. Dr. Sweeney, please advance the slide. And let's look at the proverbial out-of-school suspension. This is something that educators like us across this country are trying to battle. But I think we're beginning now to open up and have courageous conversations about what might be going on, or what might be some things going on when we look at this disproportionate number of African Americans or students of 2 or more races being almost twice as likely to serve an out-of-school suspension, and really for the same offense. And so that's why we really have pushed here at your Kentucky Department of Education, implicit bias training, as well as culturally relevant pedagogy. We're happy to mention with our CATE program that you all heard about the last time, that's the Kentucky Academy for Equity in Teaching. It has a component to address implicit bias. So all of our students who go through that program will automatically have some implicit bias training, as well as training on culturally relevant pedagogy. So hopefully those 2 things will begin to help mitigate this disproportionality of students of color being suspended twice as much. All right. I generally, in a presentation like this, talking about a meritocracy and what a meritocracy suggests. And it does suggest that all students just pull up your bootstraps, but we know when we look at these pervasive opportunity gaps that exist, which impact achievement, that all students just simply don't have boots. In fact, all students don't have bootstraps. But what we do want to get, and Dr. Sweeney, I want to talk briefly about this as well as we look to summer intervention. If you all would, in your chat box, please make a note if you one, begun to talk about what your summer intervention will look like, and 2, if you've already decided that you're going to engage in what we're talking about across the country as high dosage tutoring. So if you would take a minute to do that, and then I'll make some comments on some guidance that's coming out of the Office of Teaching and Learning regarding summer diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies to help close this opportunity gap. So if you would take about a minute to say, yes, my district has begun, or my district has decided that we're going to do high dosage tutoring, and then I'll make a couple comments. Okay, I see a couple of people saying that their district will offer tutoring.
Yes, I just wanted to jump in and verbally add we will be offering tutoring in Campbell. I just can't pull it up the chat box on my phone right now.
Yeah, okay, and it seems like you have something going on in the background, so we want to make sure that you are safe. Seems as though, see, there's a summer boot camp in Christian County. We're offering a summer learning institute. Very good. So I'm going to talk briefly about some of the guidance that we're going to offer, and let me know if this sort of jives with what you're all going to offer. You know, some of the research is already out there regarding summer opportunities to close the summer slump, or what we are now calling the COVID gap. So we need to make sure that we have sufficient time on task. We need to maximize class instruction. Research is quite compelling. It shows that productive academic learning time is more predictive of student achievement than the amount of time students are in the classroom. One of the great educational scholars, one of the great educational reformers, actually lived right in Kentucky. Some of you may have heard of the late Phil Schlechting. And Phil Schlechting called this working on the work. Oh, wow. So we need to make sure that we take a very critical look at how we use summertime. And some of the recommendations here quickly that we're going to provide to you when you look at your summer schools. One, if possible, operate the program for 5 to 6 weeks. So hopefully you're doing that, with 60 to 90 minutes for math and 90 to 120 minutes of reading and writing for targeted instruction per day, and 2 to 3 hours of enrichment activities. And another thing that I think is highly important is that schedule academic classes to occur in continuous blocks and maximize instructional time by providing time for transitions in your schedule. So many of you are building your schedule, so make sure you have time for that. And then third, please provide teachers with strategies for maximizing instructional time and ensure that there is some predictability. And I'm sure we're going to get real into this conversation a little later. Please ensure that we have the proper professional development and support to address not only our students, but our teachers' social and emotional learning needs. Dr. Sweeney, I think, is it next month is SEL month, I believe?
We have SEL Day tomorrow.
Oh, SEL Day tomorrow. So again, let's use that. Let's use tomorrow as SEL Day as a springboard into the summer to ensure that we're taking care of our social and emotional needs. And always remember Maslow before Bloom. And then I want to give you one other strategy that some other guidance that we'll give you is that we need to prioritize student recruitment and attendance. There needs to be a priority on who you're recruiting and attendance. I mean, that needs to be up front. So if you haven't gotten your literature out now, you probably want to do that, because again, the studies show that students need to attend at least 20 days over the course of the summer to experience some academic gain or academic benefit. So ensure that you have at least 20 days during this high dose summertime. In addition to offering enrichment activities, accurate recruitment materials should be there, and incentives. Folks, incentives work. Unfortunately, I'm coming from Colorado, where it was illegal to offer incentives. Folks, incentives work, prizes work, and food works as well. I heard yesterday when I was on my call during my presentation with folks in Northern Kentucky, 1 in 4 students in Kentucky is food insufficient, which means that 1 in 4 of our kids, our most vulnerable population, is hungry. And so we need to make sure that this summer that we are feeding our children. So please do that. And again, it it is a very good incentive. And then the third thing I want to share with you is that it's important that we use a robust, common local curriculum and high quality instructional research, high quality instructional resources. All this should be research based. Your high quality instructional resources should be research based, fully vetted materials. And what we found with the research, folks, is that in this short, when you have a short amount of time, or you may even have a novice teacher or a novice principal, if students are given high quality instructional resources, that's aligned with your standards. It helps close the gap and students realize some academic benefits. So again, please anchor your program in the common curriculums that you've developed in your school district. And I would also suggest that you look at your class size. I would suggest that you keep your class sizes to 15 students to 1 adult if possible. Because one, it's important that you build those relationships. The students are going to come back to school really, really looking for that relationship that they lost that they didn't have at the beginning of the year or throughout the school year. So getting to know your students' individual needs is going to be paramount. And lastly, I always end by asset framing, and I ask you all to do the same. Let's look at the treasures that our students, the treasures that we as professionals bring, the skills that each of us brings. I know it's going to be daunting, it's going to be challenging, but I tell you what, there's no better state, no better commonwealth where you have people who are focused. Your governor, your lieutenant governor, your commissioner, your state board of education, your local boards of education, and more importantly, you are focused on helping students to achieve. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to share some of this data. And I told you I wasn't going to give you too much data.
All right, first off, counselors, folks on the call, isn't it incredible that our Deputy Commissioner of Education is such a proponent of social emotional learning? Isn't like, let's clap it up for the man. Isn't that exciting? Um, so you'll see, Dr. Woods Tucker, that our school counselors they love SEL, and one of the beautiful things about the people on this call is that they model it in their schools. You know, you and I speak all the time about how it's not just the school counselor's job, but one thing that they do is that they model this so that our teachers can see what a good lesson plan is that incorporates SEL. They can also see how they can incorporate SEL throughout their academic courses. So thank you again for all of your help. All right, so we're clearly running off over time a little bit, but we wanted to show you this. All right, and counselors, I've been, talking you up. So we really do. When we're saying we're showing you this stuff as rough drafts, because we really do want your feedback. And we gave this to you as pre-work. So we're very interested in just knowing, what are some things. So let me back up a little bit and tell you the purpose of our equity dashboard. All right, so we know that as school counselors, as school administrators, our educators don't necessarily have the time to dig into different sources for their data. We know that going to the school report card and then going to the to Panorama is difficult, and then going to your continuous improvement plan. So right now, if you're truly trying to get a picture of equity and the needs of your school, you've got to go to multiple places to find that information. So we wanted to put everything in one spot. All right. We want you to have a quick glance, a quick picture of where are we in terms of equity. And then these are the indicators that we're interested in looking at. So for elementary, we're looking at, who is being identified for gifted and talented. And then let's look at that by subpopulations. All right. Are our Black females being identified just as much as their white counterparts? So and we're looking at this across more than just race. Okay, so so we're looking at this in terms of special education, offers referrals as well. We're looking at promotion and retention. We're looking at different opportunity gaps, as Dr. Woods Tucker mentioned. So like middle school, what does the enrollment in 8th grade Algebra 1 look like by subpopulation? Because we know that 8th grade Algebra 1 can be a gatekeeper. We've got 10 unbelievable opportunities in Kentucky for free dual credit courses. But if you want to take those courses in math, you will get more opportunities if you've had Algebra 1 in 8th grade. So just different things like that. So I don't want to keep talking because I want to make sure that that Debbie's got enough time to talk about trauma-informed care and the different PD opportunities that KDE offers for you, including mindfulness and youth mental health first aid. But is there feedback on our equity dashboard proposal right now?
Dr. Sweeney, I was just gonna say, I think it's great to have everything right there in one location for all of us to look at. Instead of having to go to multiple places, looking at multiple things, it's all right there for us to kind of a one-stop shop.
Awesome.
Can you explain a little bit more how the data will be presented? Because Dr. Sweeney, I work in JCPS. That's where you came from, and it's overwhelming amount of data. And for a school like mine, where lots of kids are involved in AP classes and things like that, I'm having to mine through and figure out, where those gaps are. So will it be presented?
I got you. Yes. Yes. So I have been thinking about that quite a bit. So we're interested in creating something that can look several ways, right? So we want you to be able to automatically see, is there a gap in your advanced placement program or your gifted program? What's going on with your again, your white students versus your students from other races. We want you to be able to see all of this, like Sarah Aiken spoke about, just a quick one-stop shop, a quick glance that's going to suggest to you, maybe I need to dig a little bit deeper. But we're using a program called data visualization. So you literally would be able to go in here and see something similar. We're still kind of debating on the actual feel of it because we want to make sure that it's right. And we've got a few different proposals on the table. This being one, something like this versus something like this, right? Versus something like this. But again, the idea is to make it very, very easy to quickly glance at it and say, all right, we've got some issues with our African American to non-African kids getting novices and reading. All right, so that's kind of what we're looking for. Bar graphs that are colorful and visually appealing that will let you know right off the bat how well a group is doing, or if that group is underperforming, or if there is some potential disproportionality with opportunities. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Dr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Is this data they'll be able to pull off Infinite Campus, or at each district or school, will it be data that we'll have to enter?
No. Yeah. So we are pulling the data for you. No, you don't have time for that. So we are pulling the data for you from multiple sources, and it'll be in one spot. So we don't plan on you having to enter anything. What we do plan to do is create kind of we plan to create a video that will help you understand how you can navigate that tool. And then we're also working, we had a really exciting call today from some gentlemen up north about an equity playbook that would actually help you ask the right questions. So I see that there's disproportionality in special education. What do I do? What is my next step? Is that helpful? All
yeah,
right.
absolutely. Yes.
All right. Wonderful. Great. All right. So we have we've got Debbie Sauber. She is from our Safe and Supportive Schools branch, and she's from the Office of Continuous Improvement here at KDE. She's going to be talking to you a little bit about training opportunities related to SEL, trauma-informed care, and youth mental health first aid. So take it away, Debbie, and I'll move the slides for you.
Thank you, Damien. I was going to ask if you would do that. So nice to be here and to meet everybody. And as Damien said, I work in the Division of Student Success with Christina Weeder and Sarah McIntosh, who are both on this call. And mostly what our branch does is what's on the screen. We're responsible for all of these initiatives, such as school safety concerns, mental health and wellness, suicide and bullying prevention, substance abuse prevention, human trafficking, child sexual abuse, and emergency operations plannings for school. Next. I'm gonna try not to go through this too quickly, but I am aware of the time. So how we implement these initiatives are through training and technical assistance and providing support and information for school districts and regional co-ops, promoting a positive school climate within the schools, encouraging mental health awareness, reducing stigma, and in building resiliency of our educators.
And Debbie, I understand you're going to go over, and it's fine. We've
Okay.
got. I think people are understanding of that.
Okay.
If you need to drop off, we'll have a recording available soon.
Thanks. All right. So here's a list of all of the trainings that are offered through our branch and division. Social emotional learning and well-being, which we know, as we've all discussed many times, that's kind of the crux of it all. And social emotional learning is for everybody, not just our students, but also the adults in the building and parents at home. Mindfulness practices, sources of strength, Olvea's bullying prevention program, trauma-informed practices for educators, resilience strategies for educators, and PBIS with ISF, Interconnected Systems Framework, which is a big piece of what we do, and youth mental health first aid. So let's look a little bit at some of them. The format that we use for teaching social emotional learning is Castle's SEO Framework, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and it promotes the 5 competencies that you see on the screen: self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness. So our team members have developed several 1 and 2 hour trainings that address those competencies and how you can implement those in your schools. Go ahead. We know the benefits of social emotional learning is that it increases academic performance, it decreases anxiety, decreases behavior problems for some. And this slide right here gives you an overview of some of the research that's out there. There's a lot of research that social emotional learning contributes to better academic performance and mental health all the way around. Next. Okay. Mindfulness. We have 30 years of research on mindfulness that demonstrates how important it is to improving emotional and physical well-being. And in our office, Dr. Judy Bandahara is an awesome mindfulness trainer. So if you're interested in that type of thing, we can get you connected with her. Next. Okay. Sources of strength. We do not directly provide sources of strength. This training is paid for and housed, so to speak, at the Division of Behavioral Health. But we do have trainers in our division who support this work and train with the behavioral health trainers. So this is a really good school-wide youth-driven training. So if you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to ask, get a hold of us for more information. But this is basically using teams of young people to look for sources of strength amongst their peers to help prevent suicide and other mental health concerns. And there is now an elementary curriculum, so it can be used for elementary, middle, or high school students.
Can I just say,
Sure.
Debbie, literally my first day of work at KDE, I saw students from Jackson County come in and talk about sources of strength, and they couldn't stop talking about just how beneficial it was to their school community. They had just experienced a student suicide there the year prior, and this program was able to help them really come together as that school community.
Yeah, and I've seen it too. I've been in a couple of schools and watched people train in this program, and I've been through the training, and I think it is awesome. And it really does focus on not where there are needs, but where there are assets, so that you can help peers see, look, you've got this, you've got this, you've got this. And you have adult advisors that help the kids through that.
Yeah, and one other cool thing about it is, you're not just looking for your high flyers to be part of this program. You're looking for students from every demographic within the school.
Absolutely. So I think we've kind of talked about, you can go ahead and skip that one. Okay, trauma-informed practices. This is I keep wanting to say trauma-informed care because I called it TIC for years, but it's changed. It's kind of the same thing, but the name's a little different. So, of course, all of our trainings have a trauma lens because we know that what happens to kids and families and even our adults in the school impact how they perform academically, socially, everything. So we can help provide trauma-informed practices for your school. Mostly we've done that through learning collaboratives where we can get lots of people from co-ops in various districts together and discuss trauma-informed practices and how to implement that in the classroom, in non-classroom settings, all through your school. Resiliency strategies for educators is another one not directly provided by us. It comes from the REMS TA Center, but we have relationships with them and we provide this training through them. In fact, we just had one, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and we had well over 100 people attend. And this is helpful to help you as an educator take care of yourself. Look at the needs that you have and how you can take care of yourself while you're taking care of kids and students and their parents. Next. PBIS and ISF is something I'm sure many of the counselors are familiar with because this is a pretty broad initiative across the state of Kentucky. And it is just what it says, using positive behavioral interventions and supports to help kids succeed. Reframing our rules and expectations in positive language rather than negative. Starting from tier 1, including your mental health professionals that are either located in your school or if you have contract with community mental health people. We need them involved in your schools from the ground floor up, rather than we start at tier 2 and say, oh, these kids need to be handed off to a counselor or a therapist. Start from the beginning. This reduces behavior problems and out-of-school suspensions, which we've already talked about, and we know that they can disproportionately affect some of our children of color. So if you can implement PBIS in your schools, I think some of that will be reduced.
And this is one thing that we continually talk to school counselors about. We want you spending the majority of your time in tier 1. And, you know, we don't want you to react in tiers 2 and tier 3. We believe that if you spend most of your time in tier 1, that's going to scale back some of those tier 2 and tier 3 needs. So so we know that that's part of it, that there, you know, we as school counselors, we've got to be ready for anything that comes to us. We've got somebody right now that's handling an emergent situation, but we know that helping normalize some of the emotions, help normalize some of the mental health issues, will do just what you see on the slide. It'll improve behavior, school climate, along with reducing discipline issues.
Yeah, and if you implement PBIS and the Olveus bullying program together, you'll see that there's a great deal of overlap and that even the teams for both of those can be the same people. Because I know sometimes you think, well, we have this initiative and that initiative, and then how do we get it all together? It's too many, but they overlap very, very well and complement each other. And then finally, youth mental health first aid. And this one I'm spending a little bit more time on. For most of you as counselors, going through this training would not be tremendously beneficial because you are trained well above what this course offers. This is the initial help that you would provide to someone who's in a mental health crisis. The same as if somebody fell down and cut themselves, you would apply physical first aid until you could get them to a doctor or hospital or something like that. Youth mental health first aid is taking care of the crisis until somebody like you or other people can come in and provide more involved services. So it's not used for diagnosing or treating mental illness, but just making sure that you're aware of the signs and symptoms of mental illness or potentially mental illness within students so that you can get them the help they need. Now, we will provide this training to counselors if you want it, and I see familiar faces in the room who have asked for it, and we certainly can do that. But it's more appropriate for like your bus drivers, your lunchroom staff, your paraeducators, clerical staff, or people who maybe come in and do after-school programs with your children. Because as you get back into the buildings and more students are there, there might be more needs for this because our kids are going to come back to school with anxiety possibly and other illnesses that we'll need to pay attention to. All right, next. This is a free 6-hour course that right now we can provide virtually. It used to be in person only, but we now can provide it virtually online. And we would look at the risk factors and warning signs unique to the adolescents, the 12 to 18-year-olds. And we can have groups as large as 30, small as 5, but 20 is the best size for 2 trainers to engage in. Much of the work that you will do, if you sign up for one of these trainings, you'll get a link to do some pre-work that'll take you 1 to 2 hours, depending on how much time you have to spend with it. And then you'll have a 4.5-hour session virtually through Zoom with one of your trainers, one of us. Next. Okay, so as we said, we're looking at risk factors and warning signs for substance abuse, anxiety, depression, trauma, and whatever else might be going on with their children. You will learn a 5-step action plan, which is ALGAE. This program came from Australia originally. So it uses algae and a cute little, what do you call it, koala bear to help get the training across. So, and my slide went away, so I'm assuming that we are done. Did I have more slides?
Sorry, I got kicked off.
Oh, that's okay.
Let me reshare. Sorry about that. That's the second time it's happened this afternoon. All right. You're doing great, though.
Okay. All right. So you can move on down. Thank you.
Okay.
Just a little bit of more information that half of all lifetime cases of mental illness begin by the age of 14. So that's why we want to start paying attention to some of these signs and symptoms earlier and trying to help alleviate the stigma, because sometimes that's what keeps our young people from getting the treatment they need. The sooner they get help, the more likely they are to have a positive outcome. Next. And here is our contact information. So for youth mental health, first aid, or Alveus bullying prevention, you can call me or email me directly. The sources of strength, I've put Kathy Prothero on here, who works at the Division of Behavioral Health, and she's wonderful. She can answer your questions. And Regina Dawson, also in our division, who handles most of the other trainings, is our training coordinator. So that was fast and furious, but that's what we do. So
you did a great job. You did a great job. Are there questions for Debbie? She's been an amazing asset, and as you can see, her team offers so much. So we're so thankful for them. Any questions or feedback for Debbie? All right. Thanks, Debbie. Thank you. All right, so we want to go into our announcements real quick. So you will be happy to know that our KEPS system, our KEPS program, Kentucky Educator Placement Services program, it now reads school counselor. It used to read guidance counselor, which you know is a bad word. So we were able to get this changed to school counselor. Also, there is currently a law about guidance counselors, and that is in the process of being changed too and updated. So we're really excited that that should be changed by the fall. All right. I've been doing some presentations this week. I did one unlike any that I've ever done, and it was much more of a simulation. So I know that that Zooming all day and being on Microsoft Teams all day can be difficult. So I wanted to create more of a professional learning community with this one. It was for counselors in Ohio Valley, and our goal is to create an understanding of annual administrative conferences. I want all of our school counselors this summer to be able to sit down with their principals and say, all right, these are the priorities of my school counseling program. These are the priorities that are aligned to the school's data, and these are the priorities that are aligned to my annual student outcome goals. And so we're simulating how to gather the data, how to fill out the templates, and then how to have that conversation. So I'm just looking for feedback on that. Is that kind of simulation, professional learning community important for you? I believe it is. Or do you kind of prefer a different format? Just let me know in the chat box. As I mentioned earlier, we're also looking at creating an equity playbook, and we would love to have some school counselors volunteer to take a look at that playbook when it's time to before we roll it out, just to give us some feedback from your perspective. So if you're interested in being equity playbook volunteer and helping support that work, giving us feedback, telling us, yes, this is great, but here are some things that I really want you to think about further, then please let us know that in the chat box. Just put, would love to volunteer for the equity playbook. You can use your own words. You have many of our members on the call today. This is your third year of being on the School Counselor Advisory Council. So we have really enjoyed our time with you, and you've been huge assets to us here at the Department of Education and in the Commonwealth. But each member is on the council for 3 years. So we are having to rethink how we recruit new members, and that'll likely look like an application that goes out towards the end of this school year. So, so next meeting will be your last meeting, and you'll get a certificate. You'll get something that you can. We would love for you to put it on your resume. We would love for other people to know that you've been a part of this process. All right. So those are my announcements. We would also like to know for our last meeting of the school year if you have future topics that you would like to discuss. So if so, feel free to unmute and let us know. And I forgot to mention, Sarah Aiken is my note taker for today. So she's trying to capture everything that we say today, and she will certainly capture those future topics. What topics might you have? Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we've got some volunteers. All right. Any future topics? One thing that I am thinking about a lot lately is interventions. So you give this lesson in tier one, and maybe that lesson is on some of the things that Debbie mentioned. Maybe it's on anxiety. Maybe it is on normalizing emotions. How do you know who needs tier two support? How do you know who might need tier three? And I'm not talking about universal screeners or any of that, but I'm talking about when you're in your tier one lesson from an MTSS framework, how do you know the next steps for your program? So potentially we'll try and capture that and talk a little bit about that in the future. All right. Is there any feedback for me before I let you go? Is there any feedback about today's meeting, about what's going on in the Commonwealth? Any feedback that you might have?
I'm excited to say that here shortly, I'm going down to our city council meeting where they are giving us a proclamation for SEL Day tomorrow. So that's exciting.
That is very exciting. You are.
I message our mayor all the time, and I'm like, "Hey, can I have another proclamation?"
I know this is number 2 for Heather. She was able to get a proclamation for school counseling week earlier. So so I'm proud of you. And this is your first year on the board of the Kentucky School Counseling Association, I believe.
Second year as a counselor. So
yeah. So
I just like to make those connections and then knock on people's doors all the time and ask for their help.
She's a go-getter. So thank you for all of that. And congrats on the proclamation.
I appreciate it. I'm excited for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Across the state. I think it'll be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Check our Twitter and retweet and use that hashtag SEL Day.
Okay,
Other thoughts before Dr. Woods closes us out? And please make sure that you complete our exit slip for today. I'll put that in the chat box. But other thoughts or feedback before we go? Tomorrow I'll be doing tomorrow I'll be doing a lesson on resilience for educators. If you have not had a chance to join me for one of those sessions, I recommend it. Let me know. We can get something scheduled for you, your district, your region, etc. Again, I strongly recommend Heather Bushman. She's on the call. She is a wonderful trainer for social emotional learning. We've got Sarah Aiken, who's been training on all things school counseling. So we've got some people on this call that are willing to help. We've got Christina Dalton on the call from Davies County. She's been doing a lot with mindfulness. She's been able to do calming rooms and mindfulness rooms in her district. So if you want more information on that, Christina Dalton is somebody to reach out to as well. And I know that I miss somebody. Everybody's doing amazing work. Jessica's got awesome stuff that she's doing in JCPS. I mean, everybody's doing amazing work. So thank you for all that you do. Dr. Wiz Tucker, I'll let you close us out.
Thank you, Dr. Sweeney, and thank you to our school counselors for the amazing work that you do. And on behalf of Dr. Glass, thank you for being heroes. Thank you for being our heroes every day. And we know that when our students are fully back this year and fully back next year, you're going to be some of the main go-to people, as you are each and every day. Because again, our students, for them to be successful, we need to capture their hearts first before capturing their minds. And I want to thank you for doing that. And congratulations for tomorrow on School Counselors Day. When I become president, it will be next month. So thanks for, again, the work that you do and for our kids here in the Commonwealth. So Dr. Sweeney, we'll now close and want to make sure everyone gets home safely before that wind and the rain continues to move through the Commonwealth.
Yes, as you know, I hope you know by now that I'm here for you. I love what you do. I love to support you. So if there's anything that I can do for you, just reach out. Have a wonderful day.